Thanks, Suraj. Good morning, everyone. My name is Suresh Paritala, and I'm a technology solution professional and aka solution architect in data and AI space. So just a brief introduction. So I've been with Microsoft for 2 years and in the technology for 20 years, little more 20 years. And my expertise are in big data and machine learning. Today we're going to talk about. Siraj, are you going to talk about the updates? Or
hey, Suresh. So first of all, we can see your both screens. So if you want to share just one.
Okay, let me.
Okay, perfect. So now I can just see one, and then I will not be talking about the service update in this call today because a lot of new updates are going to come after build next week. So in the next week call, we will cover just the service updates.
Okay.
Yep.
Great. So we are going to be talking about Azure Machine Learning Services. This service is in preview right now, and it was announced sometime last week. I think middle of last year, and I think it's going to go GA soon. I'm not sure when, but so it's still in preview. We are not going to be talking about the machine learning concepts, general machine learning concepts, but we are going to focus on the Azure Machine Learning Services and how you can get your machine learning experiments running and have the models deployed. Having said that, I want to start by introducing the Microsoft AI platform, and we're going to be zooming in on the Azure Machine Learning. So I just want to give you an overview of the AI landscape from Microsoft. So if you see on the top left, you have the Azure AI services, and in there you have the pre-built AI. This is the cognitive services. So these are the services that Microsoft already built for you, and those are built on top of massive amount of data and with a lot of compute. So if you want to recreate it, it's kind of hard. So you could use those cognitive services. Those include vision, speech, and knowledge, and so others. And then we also have the bot service where you could build your conversational AI. For example, like automate some of the customer service reps feedback loop. So that's the bot service. And if you want to build your own machine learning models, this is where the Azure Machine Learning comes in. This is the custom UI, which we are going to be talking about. And we have all these data, AI and data. You could run your AI on Cosmos DB, SQL DB, data warehouse, and data lake. And we have all these compute. So you could run your experiments and deploy models on Spark, data science VMs, batch AI, ECS, Azure Container Services, and IoT Edge. And if you look to the right, we have something called Visual Studio tools for AI. It's the plugin for Visual Studio Code. And we also have another service that's been there for a couple of years, I think few years. It's a pretty good start for emerging data scientists. and it has its limitations, but we will talk about that a little briefly. And then the Azure Machine Learning Workbench, which is part of the Azure Machine Learning Services, which we're going to see today. And out of all these, so with Azure Machine Learning, you could use the open source frameworks such as TensorFlow, Cognitive Toolkit. This is the Microsoft CNTK toolkit. And then have a cafe and the support for others as well. Moving on to the next slide. So this is the Azure Machine Learning Studio. As I mentioned, this has been there, and it's good for you know, the data scientists who are, you know, just learning, you know, not data scientists, but, you know, the people who are learning machine learning and visualize things. So this is like a drag and drop features. See that I'm not monitoring the message, so if you see anything that pops up, let me know.
Sure, good so far. Go ahead.
Okay. So this machine learning studio.
Please put it in the presentation mode, please. The PowerPoint, just presentation mode. Yeah, thank you.
Let's see. Yeah, then it goes back to, you know, my double screen. So let me. Is that better?
Yeah. Please proceed, and you can, if you want to close the ribbon, you can double click on it and close the ribbon on the top.
Yeah. All right. There we go. The Machine Learning Studio, it is a pretty good tool to visualize things, and as I said, it has limitations. So if you are building models, you don't have a lot of control over, you know, where you want to deploy the models and how you want to develop the models. So, for example, if you want to use GPUs with this Machine Learning Studio, you cannot do that. But if you want to, you know, run a machine learning model experiment and then, you know, quickly deploy it, this is the tool, you know, you want to use. So let me maximize a little more. Okay. And so we have all these services for machine learning. So how do you choose which one to go? So if you want to build your own models, you know, use the Azure Machine Learning. And if you want to use, you know, already built models, then, you know, use the cognitive services with bot framework. And you have all these deployment targets, which I'm not going to go. I think we already gone through it. So let me skip to the next slide. This is a busy slide. I apologize, but with we're talking about the Azure Machine Learning Services here. So here you will have a lot of flexibility in terms of operationalization, like, you know, if you want to deploy it into a GPU, or if you want to do a Docker-based deployment, you have all the control over the models, and you also have a way to track your model experimentation. So, like, you know, if you're changing your scripts, Python scripts, for example, and if you want to track how your model is performing with those changes, you could do that. And it has the run history with this tool as well, which we are going to see again later. Okay. So this is Azure Machine Learning Services. So it has primarily three components. One is the experimentation service. This is where you do most of your model development. And then you also have model management services. This is where you use, once you have the model developed in the experimentation service, you want to deploy those models. So this the model management would let you help you do that. And if you look in the middle, you have something called Azure Machine Learning Workbench. So this is the tool where you can develop your experiments. We're going to see that later. And right, you're not seeing the screens going?
Right now we see the new capabilities screen, Suresh.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. Okay. So you can train and deploy on all these targets. So you could use Spark, SQL Server, virtual machines, GPUs, and the whole list here. Okay, so the next slide, you should see the slide that says concepts, Azure Machine Learning concepts. So here, I want to introduce you to these concepts within the Azure Machine Learning service, right? So you have the Azure subscription at the top level, and within the subscription, you have the resource group. And here you have this experimentation account, which you would create from the portal. You could create it from the portal or use Azure CLI. And you have a model management and then the deployment environments. So within the experimentation account, you have something called workspace. This is where you would work with in the Azure Machine Learning Workbench. So you have the projects. This is where the projects holds all the data sources, the data prep packages, the scripts, the notebooks, and the configuration files. And you could also configure your project to use GitHub or Git repository. Okay. And within the model management, the model management is everything to do with models, right? So you have all the models. Once you create the models out of experimentation account, those models you could host them in put them in the model management account, and then you also have manifests. Manifests are kind of like a recipe to create Docker images, which you see here. And then once you have the images, you would serve those images as a service, web service, through your deployment environments. Okay, so those are kind of the concepts. So experimentation account lets you keep track of projects. You could scale up and scale out your training of the models. And you can track the run history. And then we talked about the model management. You can monitor and manage deployed models. Oops. Okay. So now this is kind of similar slide to the previous ones you saw. So here it's listing all the targets that you could use, compute targets that you could use to train your models. So you could use the data science VM, your local machine, or Spark, batch AI and then ML server. Okay. And with the experimentation service, you could use all these frameworks, open source frameworks and tools, and the version controls, and the Docker, so all the language, Python. By the way, the experimentation service would only work with Python and PySpark for now, and I know they're working on making it available for R as well. So moving on to the model management service. So this is where the model management comes into play when you have the model built, right? And you want to deploy that model for your scoring. So basically, you take the model and then you containerize it into a Docker image and deploy it onto all these, any of these targets. We call it environments. So you could use IoT Edge, for example, Spark clusters or SQL Server. Okay. And how do you, so you could manage the models. Once you have the models, you could serve them as HTTP services. I'm going to show you how, how you can make calls to the services. So here you have all these targets, right? So within the model management, you have the scoring. You need to create a scoring script. So here it says score.py, and you have the model, and then you create the schema. And once you have all these, you could create the Docker image. You could create the Docker image and then deploy it onto your any of the targets, deployment targets. Okay, and once you create this, once you deploy the targets, they are called services, and you could call those services. They are pretty much REST API services. And you can call them from Excel spreadsheets if you like, and you could also do model retraining. So machine learning models work better, or you could improve those models with more data. So let's say you deploy the model, and that model has been scoring, and as the calls come in, you have all that data, right? So you could use all that data to retrain the model, to improve your model, and then register that model, and then deploy it again. So it's a continuous loop to improve your model. So this is how you do it. Okay, so the next slide. Let's go. Okay. And you can use the Visual Studio Code as well. And this is the machine learning workbench. So it's a Windows and Mac based, so you could use on Windows or Mac. And it's a full environment setup with Python and Jupyter, and it has embedded notebooks. So you could use that interface, notebook interface. and it also shows you the run history of all your experiments and how your model is improving or deteriorating with your changes. And it also has data wrangling tools, so you could transform your data and manipulate the data before you feed that data into your experiment. Okay. So yeah, this is the data wrangling capabilities that you see here, which I'm going to show. And the service pricing is the experimentation price. So starting from the top, so you have the tools, right? So the Workbench and Visual Studio Code tools, both are free. And then for the experimentation service, the first 2 seats, we call them seats, so they are free, and the others, if you go over, it's $50 per month. And then the model management pricing is like, it's based on the tiers, how many models you can deploy, and then how many deployments you want to manage, and then how many cores you want to use to score your calls. I'm going to show you a demo of the iris. This is a very common example for machine learning. So basically, iris is like a species of a flower, I think, and so we are going to predict the type of the iris. So here it could be versicolor or virginica or setosa, and we're going to predict them based on their petal length and petal width, as you see here. Also with the sepal length and sepal width. Okay. So let me show you the workspace. Okay, can you see the Azure Machine Learning Workbench?
We can definitely see it, but of course your screen is coming pretty small.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Go ahead, Suresh. I know that we have 4 minutes left, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, so we are very short on time then. So, this is the Azure Machine Learning Workbench, right? So, as I was saying, so this is a project, and you have all these files, and I want to really show you the run history. This is where the power of the Workbench comes into play. So I have all these runs on my project for building my model, and you can see all these runs, and I can compare my runs with how my model is improving or deteriorating. So here we are seeing this the metric called accuracy. This is a metric, to tell how good. This is one of the metric to tell how your model is performing, right? So I would change. I can change the parameters for my script and see how the accuracy is changing over the time, right? And you also have this data preparation tool within the Workbench. So, for example, I'll start with this raw data, and then you see on the right, these are all the data manipulation and data wrangling steps that I have. So as I click through them, I'm changing the column name, and I can do other transformations as well. And so once I have all the transformation and manipulation steps that I want, then I can use this data preparation package within my scripts, Python script in my example, and you use that data for building my model. Okay. So I have one of these. Let me share my whole desktop. I'm switching through Windows. Okay. Can you see the portal?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So here I have. I'm within the model management. I'm rushing through it because we are running out of time. So this is the model management, and I have all these manifests and services that I deployed. So we're going to use one of the service, Iris 0503, and I'm going to make a call with my this is an extension in Chrome. It's called RESTlet client. So basically, I'm making a REST call to my service. So this is the scoring URL you see here, and this is the input that I'm giving. So this the length, the sepal length, and the width, and the petal width and length. These are my parameters. So we're going to predict whether it's going to be what kind of species it's going to be. So I already made that call. So it's the model predicted it to be a iris versicolor. So let's say if we change the width here, sepal width, and then once I make that call, you see the prediction change to iris setosa. So this is a quick way of making calls to your service once it's got deployed. So I'm sorry. So I think we rushed through it, but if you have any questions, let me know, and we can take it offline.
Yeah. Hey, thank you, Suresh. So if anyone has any other question at this point, please feel free to unmute yourself and you can ask questions with Suresh directly.
Yeah, I have. Hi, this is Shiva. I have a question on how you actually showed the workbench, how you can manipulate there. Thank you for showing that. But is it possible to load that iris, the CSV file, into ML Studio and do your transformations there? Fix your missing values and put your model there. I don't know what model you have used here, regression or something. So, but build that whole flow in the ML Studio. And would you be able to export everything from ML Studio as a Python code? What you're showing here, like your model.py?
So yes, definitely. So I have this iris CSV here. You see here. So you could use this CSV file into. You could import that into Machine Learning Studio, and you would have to write your, within Machine Learning Studio, there are different components to cleanse your data, transform your data, and then your question was,
how do we export as a Python code? All the steps that you do in a Python on a Machine Learning Studio, can you export as a Python code from there and bring it here and make changes?
Yeah, so within the Machine Learning Studio, you have you could run your R or Python scripts within Machine Learning Studio. You could definitely do that.
No, but can you actually export the entire workflow as a Python code?
What do you mean, like the data preparation workflow?
Yes. So in ML Studio, you